Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Saturday, November the 1st. And welcome to our commentary. I don't know about you, but it doesn't seem that long ago that I was saying, hello, November 2024. And here we are, November 2025. Of course, a year ago, we were counting down to Election Day, what turned out to be a pretty historic day. Now we're looking back at the first year of President Trump, and it's been, to say the least, consequential. It's been very active. We'll just put it that way. Extremely active presidency. But anyway, I have a post over at the American Thinker today where I talk about Senator Schumer and what's happening to Senator Schumer and the Democrats. And what I talk about in my post is that there's a lot of dissatisfaction in some groups within the Democrat Party, more of the left, what we like to call the squad, AOC types, who don't understand why Senator Schumer, who is now the minority leader in the Senate, he's got a very prominent position in the Senate, of course, why he's not endorsing Mandani in New York City. Senator Schumer has not endorsed him. I'm not sure who he's voting for. Don't think he's made that clear either. And a lot of people are angry at him. They're saying, hey, come on, you always told us that you got to support the party. Well, apparently not this year for Senator Schumer. My guess is that he'll make maybe a last minute endorsement, like the day of the election when he goes to vote, he'll tell us who he voted for. But of course, the problem that Senator Schumer has and many other Democrats have is the whole question of the primary, that many of these people are afraid of a primary. Because as we saw that here in Texas, some of you may remember that in the last election, in the last primaries, which would have been 2024, there was a serious challenge to Henry Cuellar in South Texas. Henry Cuellar, the Democrat from South Texas, Laredo, Texas, who's been there a long time. He has quite a following down there. If you remember Mr. Cuellar, he was very critical of the Biden administration on the border, and he's also pro-life, one of the few Democrats, I guess, who still talks about opposing abortion. And he made a few enemies, to say the least, in the party. So they went after him. They brought this lady, young woman, to run against him, and she put up quite a fight. I think the primary was ultimately divided or decided by a few thousand votes. It had to go to a runoff, and it was decided. I don't remember what the exact number was, but it was a very close runoff. I mean, he almost lost his seat to an AOC type candidate. Well, there's a lot of challenges like that the Democrats are going to be facing next year as more and more of those individuals decide to jump in and challenge the more traditional Democrats. And that's, by the way, that's also going to be a consequence of Mandani's victory. It's really going to embolden that wing of the party. So maybe the Senator Schumer will eventually make his endorsement known. He hasn't yet. I guess he still has about 48 hours to let us know who he's going to vote for. But it really goes to the heart of the problem in the Democrat Party. They're very divided, whether it's a civil war or just a major difference. I know people use the word civil war all the time, and I've never really been fond of that war because a civil war is usually very, very serious. In this case, maybe there's a profound difference, a big, big difference, ideological difference, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's a civil war. I don't know. But there's a big difference in the Democrat Party, and Senator Schumer is on the receiving end of a lot of this criticism. And one of the reasons I believe that he did the shutdown, or he supported the shutdown, is the fact that I think he's been told by that wing of the party, you've got to stand up to Trump. You have to oppose Trump. And if you don't, we're going to primary you. And they've got the guy scared to death. He's scared to death. Senator Schumer is scared to death because he knows what a primary is going to look like. He's probably going to lose, or at least have to fight for his life, something he hasn't really done before. So it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting what develops with Senator Schumer. Of course, related to the shutdown, The latest thing is that a district judge has said that the Trump administration has to release, I think these are extra funds or something that the federal government has, emergency funds, that he has to release that to pay for the food stamps or SNAP, the food stamps program. The White House is saying, well, we'll check this out. We'll have our lawyers study this and see if we can actually use those funds to pay for food stamps. The problem is that the food stamp program has been shut down because the government is closed, just like any other program. I mean, if you're gonna use these funds for food stamps, what other program are they going to have to finance under a district judge like this? My guess is that the district judge will lose an appeal. If the White House fights this, they will win an appeal, because I think the White House is technically correct here. They cannot use funds that have not been appropriated by Congress for that purpose. And I think the White House will win this on appeal. Now, one thing I heard today, or yesterday when I was driving, there are people in Texas who are calling on Governor Abbott to release some funds from our reserve to pay for food stamps for people here in Texas. And I believe in Pennsylvania, Governor Shapiro has already declared an emergency and wants to use some of his local funds as well to pay for food stamps. So this is an ongoing story. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. Of course, we all know what the solution is. All they have to do is open the government and everything goes back to operating like it always does. Some people are now saying that that's going to happen after the election on Tuesday. Maybe so. But honestly, I didn't think it would last this long. So at this moment, I think this could go on for another 60 days. It could go on for another 3 days, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes on even longer than that, because I don't see a lot of, I don't see a lot of negotiations going on. I don't see a lot of hope in this, but we'll see. Hopefully it gets resolved very soon, because it does create a mess when your government is closed, not just for the food stamps, but in general. Things are messy when government agencies are not operating. And a lot of businesses have to go to the government agencies for paperwork. If you're an exporter, for example, you got to go to the government agencies for paperwork to export or import or whatever. Banks have to do the same with, again, financing exports or imports. They got to get government documents to do these things. So I've never been a fan of shutting down the government. I don't know. I don't care who does it. I just think it creates more problems than it's worth. But at this point, as I said before, I thought this would be done very quickly. And here we are 30 days later, and we're still arguing about it. So who knows? Who knows how far it's going to go? We may be talking about this in Thanksgiving. That's how crazy the situation is. So my best wishes, and I hope that people who are expecting food stamp payments can resolve something. I hope so. I don't want to hurt anybody, but if the government is shut down, I don't know how in the world are you going to get your money. I just don't see how legally you can do that, but we'll see how it pans out. Well, let's talk about something a little bit more fun, and that's the World Series, Game 7 Saturday night. By the way, I read something that Major League Baseball is having some great ratings for the World Series, just super ratings for the World Series. And of course, they've got Japan, 3 big Japanese players playing for the Dodgers. And of course, you got Canada, so that's another market. So the ratings have been absolutely great for Major League Baseball. And that's a good thing. More people are watching baseball. That's a good thing. I've always felt that the more people watch the game, the bigger the fan base will grow. But last night's game was just another example of that old cliche that you watch something new every time you go to a game. You've heard that from old timers. Oh, you can always see something new when you go to a game. Well, last night you did, because last night at the bottom of the 9th, the Blue Jays are down 3-1. There's 2 strikes on the batter, and then he gets hit by a pitch. Run at first. The next guy hits a ball to deep center field. The ball hits the fence, but it gets tied up in the fence, which means it's an automatic double. What is the significance of that? The significance is that the guy at first has to stop at third. You can only go two bases. So now you've got a man at third and a guy at second, nobody out. That's a pretty big advantage there for the Blue Jays, who are still down by 2 runs, but they've got the perfect setup. 2 men on base, nobody out. The next batter, pop fly to first base. Okay, 1 out. The next batter hits not a very deep fly ball, actually shallow fly ball that the left fielder catches. He throws to second. He doubles off the runner, double play. The game's over. I mean, just like that, the game is over. And when you look at these 2 plays, the 2 significant plays, the ball that hit the wall and the play at second, inches, an inch here and an inch there, and that would have been a different ball game. Okay, the guy would have been safe at second, just an inch difference. And if that ball hits the fence and starts moving around, there's a very good chance 1 runner scores. Now you got a guy at third with nobody out, at least. So baseball is a game of inches, and every time you watch the game, there's something new. And I guess that's what makes us baseball fans, the fact that we know that anything crazy can happen in a baseball game, and that's the beauty of the game. That is the beauty of the game, and why so many of us have been following the game for a long time. Well, Game 7 tonight. I don't even want to make a prediction. I predicted, I think, the Blue Jays in 7. My video a week ago. Okay, I'll stick to that. Blue Jays at 7, but I can just as easily say Dodgers in 7 because it's that good of a series, and these 2 teams are very good. So I'll stick with my Blue Jays at 7. But I think that would not be surprised if the next time I come here, I say congratulations to the LA Dodgers for repeating as champs. And that's a very difficult thing to do, by the way, repeating as champs. The last time somebody did that was the Yankees in 99-2000. And before that, it was the Cincinnati Reds, 75-76. So as you could tell, it happens almost every 25 years. So I guess that would be an advantage to the Dodgers, I guess. But anyway, great series so far. Baseball has been the big winner here. And the fans, of course, have been the big winner. You know, on this day in history, I'll give you this little closing thought here. On this day in history, 1512, that's a long time ago. That's 513 years ago. 1512, the Sistine Chapel was finally finished. Michelangelo, of course, was behind that. And it finally opened on this day at 1512. 513 years ago today. What a man, where does the time go, right? Where does the time go? Where were you in 1512? Well, I think neither one of us was here. But 513 years ago, 1512, the wonderful Sistine Chapel goes up. And the work of Michelangelo, I guess, is enshrined forever. That's a great movie, by the way, that they made about this. I'm trying to remember the name of that movie, but that was a great movie, fantastic movie that they made about this. I'm trying to remember who the author was. It'll come to me after I finish recording. But Charlton Heston, that's who it was. Charlton Heston was the man who played Michelangelo, and that was a great movie. I love that movie. I haven't seen it in a while, but I love that movie. Hey, great weekend, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas. We'll probably get together again on Sunday night with our friend George Rodriguez from South Texas. We got a lot to get into with George. Good weekend, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas.